Hello, everyone. This is Jeff from the band Willhaven. You're listening to Vulgar Display of Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Vulgar Display of Podcast live from the Barn Studios in Southeast Missouri. You got the Mox here with Anthony. Anthony, what's up, man?
How we doing?
Doing good. Got a special guest calling from the West Coast, I believe. We have Jeff from Willhaven. Jeff, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
How's the West Coast?
Getting really hot. Yeah, just now we're getting into the hundreds, which is like the worst part of the summer here.
Special time for Willhaven right now. You guys have a new album out, 7. Tell us a little bit about the record.
Yeah, it came out last Friday. It's been good. You know, we've been working on it for 3 years now, but just over the course of COVID. So, you know, it's been done for a little while and just kind of putting finish the touches on it. But it's nice to finally get it out and have our fans hear it. And hopefully some new people will hear it as well and enjoy it as much as we do.
And I know you had recently obviously the record release show in your hometown. How was that show, and what did it feel like getting back on stage?
It was good. You know, we haven't played in about a year and a half. We did one show in Sacramento for our friend's club that was closing down. We just did a kind of real quick show for him, but that was our first real show in about a year and a half. It was good to get the cobwebs off. I'm not a big fan of hometown shows because, you know, it's nice to sleep in your own bed after you play, but it's mostly just all family and friends that you're playing in front of. So it's not a normal show.
Right.
You know, it's a lot of meet and greets, a lot of hanging out, and a lot of trying to make your mingle away around. I always feel like it's a wedding reception or something. Like you're the groom and you're just going around saying hi to everybody and, hey, thanks for coming out, you know. But it was fun to play for sure.
Do you have people coming out of the woodwork for tickets? Hey, man, somebody you haven't, talked to in years, or somebody you went to high school with or something?
Actually, people have not done that to me. I don't know. Maybe they're scared to ask me, but yeah. I will reach out to a couple of friends of mine that are really close that I'll say, hey, I'll get you in, no problem. I only have one friend ask me if he could get in, but he's been an old friend and he deserves to get in. So, but yeah, I don't really have that kind of those friends that do that. I think if we were a bigger band, it would be different, you know, like, hey, can I get passes? Can I get so-and-so? But, you know, since we're playing like kind of a local club here, it's not that big of a deal for people to pay $20 to get in the door.
So Jeff, the band started in 1995, right? What were yours and Grady's influences to get this band rolling?
Wow. So 95, we were really into, you know, of course, me and Grady both grew up with the guys from the band Far and the band Deftones. So those were kind of like our main influences. That's we were around every single day, you know, those guys. So that had a big influence on us. But then outside of those two bands, we were listening to like, you know, Earth Crisis and Bloodlet and Dead Guy and Neurosis and Mr. Bungle and Faith No More and Bad Brains. And, you know, the list goes on forever. Pink Floyd. So it was just, when I started Willhaven, I wanted it to be more of a band that was a little different than what my friends in Deftones and Far were doing, even though we all kind of sound similar in a roundabout way. But I didn't want to have, you know, a singer, and I didn't want to have, you know, I wanted to be more outside the box than those guys were. So we tried to take a little bit of Neurosis influence and stuff that was different than what they were doing and try to incorporate into Willhaven. So even though our bass sound was kind of the Sacramento sound, we were trying to pull stuff from like Coalesce and Neurosis and stuff like that into our sound to make it a different than what our friends are doing at the time.
You know, the Willhaven story to me is really interesting because, you know, I kind of lump you guys in, whether I should or not, with some of the bands you're mentioning, you know, the late 90s hardcore, the Vision of Disorder, Earth Crisis, you know, Candiria, however you say that name. I still don't know even after all these years.
Yeah.
But there's such an atmospheric sound to you guys. And you mentioned Neurosis. It's a band that we absolutely love on this podcast, where it's, you know, it's the beauty that's dark, right? It's sort of, even some of the Converge is so dark that it's really beautiful. And I don't think people fully appreciate that about Willhaven.
Yeah, that was something I've always wanted to incorporate in our sound, just because people notice it more on 7, but we've done it pretty much our whole career. We've had some kind of atmospheric thing going on in the background, whether it be a second guitar or some kind of keyboard, piano. We've always done that, but that's my influence because I'm a huge like Pink Floyd Neurosis fan. And so the thing that moved me was not just the heaviness of Neurosis, but it was also the very eerie, dark stuff that they had going on with Pete was playing on keyboards and stuff and the samples. And so that was a big influence on me, is I wanted to make something really heavy, but very atmospheric. And I think we're still moving towards that direction of making something really grand on that size, but we're heading that way. But that's always been important to me. And in fact, on this record too, our producer, Joe, our engineer, was like, "Hey, do you want the keyboards that loud?" And like, "Hey, that's what makes Will Haven us. Like, that's what makes us different than every other band. We need to have like that vibe in there to keep this, different than what's going on right now." So it's always been important to me.
And I've seen you describe your sound in an interview, and you said it was emotional heavy. But I think that describes your sound perfect.
Yeah, and I think, how would you describe Neurosis? It would be the same thing. You can't describe them. They're not a hardcore band. They're not a metal band. They're just a band that you feel. You can't describe Neurosis. So that's when I think of Will Haven, I want it to be the same way. I can't describe what they are. I just feel something when I listen to them. It puts me in a different mood, or gets me hyped up, or makes me feel depressed, or whatever it does to you. That's what you want. You don't want somebody to put on your music and just listen to it. Go, "Oh, that's cool." You want to get something from it. So that's when I say emotional metal, that's kind of what I envision, just having this band be more of an emotional thing that is just hearing something through your headphones.
And I know the last couple years with Neurosis has gotten a little weird, right? But
yeah.
But that aside, maybe talk about Neurosis's legacy. What do you think they mean to the metal world?
They're one of those. I think we have a lot of kinship with them because they never became mainstream. They're very cult. Probably one of the biggest cult metal, I guess, slash bands you could ever imagine. But they were the band's favorite band. Like every musician, if you say, "What's your favorite band?" "Oh, Neurosis." It's just one of those bands that just influenced so many people. I hung out with Jay Weinberg from Slipknot, the drummer, and I was like, "Hey, what's your favorite band?" He's all, "Neurosis by far, by down. My favorite band in the whole world is Neurosis." And so that's cool,
Yeah.
So it's like, you meet those people, and it's that are Neurosis fans. You already have like a brothership with them. You're like, "Oh, you like Neurosis? Oh, you're cool. I like you. Like, we get along good," So I don't know. It's one of those bands that I wish that they would have gotten bigger than they were, just because I think they would have been so artistic with their live show, and like I think they would have been doing some really cool stuff. But I think for them, I don't think they cared really. I think they were just happy to play music and push the boundaries. And we got to tour with them a couple of times. That was amazing. That's kind of like one of my highlights of my career, was like touring with those guys. And so it's hard to say, like, that band should have been bigger than they were, but just like kind of they've inspired so many people to just create new stuff and a different sound. And yeah, they're definitely the GOATs, for sure.
Yeah, we'll get back to the Will Haven talk in a second, but
welcome to the Neurosis podcast.
Just real quick on Neurosis. I'm actually a late bloomer with Neurosis. I probably didn't start really listening to them until about 5-6 years ago. Started listening to their last record that they put out, and it's like a 6-song EP, and that blew me away. And now I own like 3 of their albums on vinyl. I just can't believe how I missed them. I don't know if it was a maturity thing or what, but I completely overlooked them for a while, and now they're absolutely at the top of my list.
I do think it's something you have to grow into a little bit. It's so heady and advanced that I think it takes a little bit to resonate. I know it did with me as well.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. I started getting Neurosis. I mean, I heard Pain of Mind back in the day, and that was more punk rockish kind of stuff. But when Souls of Zero came out, that was so groundbreaking, especially in that world that was going on at the time. I mean, it was a lot of hardcore stuff. And then Neurosis drops that record, and it's like, it's very dark and eerie and heavy. And a lot of people didn't get it. And it took me a little time to like get adjusted to it. But those records, it's Through Silver and Blood, Souls of Zero, Times of Grace, like those 3 records are just mind blowing. I mean, those are so ahead of their time, like even today, like those are the records I love from Neurosis.
Times of Grace is my favorite, just for the record.
Yeah.
But you guys do actually. So back in 1998, me and Anthony both saw Soulfly and Neurosis was one of the opening bands. Soulfly is obviously a band that you guys have a connection with as well. I think you did some touring with, and obviously Grady was on one of Max's records.
Where did you see that show at, Neurosis Soulfly?
St. Louis.
St. Louis Hatebreed opened it.
We were on that show. We were on that tour.
Or were you?
Yeah, we opened up. It was us, Hatebreed, Neurosis, and Soulfly.
And
so maybe you guys missed us.
Maybe, yeah.
Might have been drinking in the parking lot. It was 1998, by the way. So
yeah,
that was the tour we did with them. I actually have a flyer in my room right now, actually from that tour. That was an amazing tour. But Deftones hooked us up with with Max Cavalera basically when he was still in Sepultura. Chino and him became really good friends, and Chino was passing along new music to Dana, which was Gloria and Max's son. And Dana was kind of showing Max all these new bands. He showed him Far and showed him Will Haven, and Max just fell in love with Will Haven and actually called me up one day and talked to me a little bit. And then I think he wanted Sepultura to take Will Haven out, but that's when Sepultura broke up. Actually, Far was on Sepultura's last show ever as far as the original lineup. Yeah.
Wow.
They were on that tour when Dana had the accident. So they actually canceled the tour in the middle of that tour and went home. And so that, then they took that break, and then Soulfly started, and then Max always, kind of kept in contact. And then when Soulfly started kind of rolling, that's when he asked us to, do some shows with them, tour with them. We actually played Dana's first memorial show. And then he got it. Put Grady on that record, Primitive record. And then, then we just started touring with them as much as we could. Gloria would always call us up. Anytime they needed a band to tour with, Gloria would call us up and say, "Hey, you guys want to go on tour with us?" I'm like, "Yeah, we'd love to." So just became this really kinship thing and a family thing. And, the Zion, who's the drummer for Soulfly now, was a tiny little kid when we were touring with them. So we would babysit the kids and hang out with the kids. And it was like a whole family vibe that was going on for a long time. And it was awesome. Yeah, they're a great family. They were a lot of fun.
And we've been lucky enough to speak with Gloria several times and speak to Max just through an interview. But, I mean, those people are sweethearts. They've done for us what they didn't need to do for us, and been more than welcoming of us being in their just a small part of their world. So shout out Max and Gloria, right? The king and queen of metal at this point.
Yeah, they're awesome. They've done so many for up and coming bands too. They'll throw in just random bands on there that, even local bands, when they go tour through, they'll hook up a local band, put them on the show, and they did a lot for us. There's no reason Grady should have been on that Primitive record, but Gloria's like, "I want you and Chino to do this." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great though." So, and then she made sure that on that Primitive record, the sticker on the front actually said "Pain" with Grady from Will Haven and Chino from Deftones. And,
oh, wow.
She hooked us up so hard, much love to the Cavalera family.
And we were just talking off air before we came on air. That part that Grady did on that is a killer part on that record. So
yeah, he killed it on that record. And he did play with them twice. I think he did it live with them. And the time he did it, he just almost blew the speakers out. So it was pretty rad.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Here in about a month, you're heading out to support your record, doing some West Coast dates, but I know you're also making your way to the legendary Furnace Fest at the end of September. Have you guys played Furnace Fest before?
We have not. I heard about it a couple times through some friends of mine, and then one of my friends went last year and went to it and said it was awesome, and then told me, "Hey, Will Haven should try to get on this. It'd be perfect for you guys." And so I know Furnace Fest had maybe followed Will Haven or something on Instagram, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll DM them and see if I can get a hold of somebody there." So I reached out to somebody at Furnace Fest and DM'd them, and I just said, "Hey, Will Haven's available if you guys need a band for this year." And they wrote back, and I think it was Ryan who wrote me back, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, we might have a spot for you. I'll let you know." And then a couple days later, he's like, "Yep, I got a spot for you." And I was like, "Sweet." So yeah, I just reached out to them, and they hooked us up. So I've never played it, never been there. I'm excited. I mean, the lineup this year is killer.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to go see the bands that are playing.
Right.
Not let them play it. Just go see it.
Free ticket, I guess, right?
Yeah, you're playing on a really fun day too.
Yeah, and we're getting there on Thursday night, so we're gonna try to go Friday because I want to see some of those bands on Friday too. So yeah, it should be a fun weekend for sure. Yeah, the day we're playing is crazy.
Zayo, Head Automatica, Thursday. Gorilla Biscuits.
Today, Gorilla Biscuits.
Yeah.
Training for Utopia is a friend of ours. I think Turnstile's headlining that day, maybe.
Yeah, they are.
Wow.
Yeah, it's packed that day for sure.
Ooh, Loathe are playing too. Awesome.
Yeah.
And it looks like October you're heading overseas to support this record as well.
Yeah, we always try to get over. at least once or twice a year to Europe, and that's kind of where we really hit it off. I guess right away was in Europe when we toured with Deftones back in the day, and that fan base has always been there and always is still growing. So it's always good to go back there and just play. And so yeah, everything is just so crazy because of COVID. Everybody is booking shows and tours, so it's really hard to get any dates. So we just try to jump on the first dates we could get available for these venues, and it ended up being October. So yeah, we're gonna go over there and do a quick run. We're trying to extend some dates now, so we may make it a little longer, but yeah, we'll go over there and rock it and yeah, just have a good time. I love it over there. I love playing over there. It's a blast.
I have to ask you about this. When we were doing research for this interview, was surprised to hear that Chris Fain from Slipknot played bass guitar for you guys for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that happened?
Yeah, so in '99 on Slipknot's very first record, we toured with them in the United States. A clown asked us to open up for him for like 3 weeks on that first record. So we would tour with them, and on that tour, I just became really good friends with like Jim and Joey and Chris, and then after we toured them, I just stayed really close with mostly Chris and Joey. And then Chris always said, "Hey, we should do a band together," because Chris was always wanting to do something outside of Slipknot because he wanted to be in a more of a band situation than just like. Slipknot, he's kind of a character, so
right.
He always wanted to start a side band with friends of his, and we always talked about it. Just never worked out because Slipknot was always so busy. And then I think right after, might have been All Hope Is Gone, maybe right before that, they had a big break where they take like 2 or 3 years off from touring, and we were just started writing For Dire, and I said, hey, and our bass player Mike had just moved to Texas. He just left and moved to Texas. We didn't really have a bass player. So I called Chris and like, hey, here's your opportunity to play in a band outside of Slipknot. You want to play bass? And he's like, yeah, I'll try it. So he came and lived with me for a couple months, and I showed him all the parts, and he learned all the parts, and we recorded the record. Actually, he helped me write a lot of stuff too. He's actually a really good songwriter. As anybody in Slipknot's amazing musician. So he helped me write songs and put stuff together, and then he played all the bass on the record. And then we did one little tour on the West Coast, and we went to London and played a show. And then that was kind of the end of that album cycle. It was just a really short period. And then right when he finished with us, and Slipknot picked up again, and he had to go record with them. So it was a kind of a quick thing, but it was a blast. Chris is one of my best friends. He's an awesome dude. And it was just fun having him in the band and having him live with me because he lives in Michigan. So for him to come out and stay with me for a couple of months in California was just fun. We just played golf every day and worked on music, and it was a lot of fun.
Sounds like a pretty good life. Not too bad, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't bad at all.
All we do is podcast and play golf, so
yeah.
There you
go. We are joined with Jeff from Will Haven. The new album is out now, 7. It's on Minus Head Records, available everywhere. Jeff, do you want to give your website and where they can get all your information?
Yeah, our Instagram is Will Haven Band. I think that's one probably we use the most. And then we have Facebook, Will Haven 43, I believe is our Facebook, but it's Will Haven on Facebook. We do have Twitter, Will Haven Band on Twitter. And I think that's about it. Minus Head does a great job of posting stuff on their Facebook page and their main page, web page. So yeah, we're not too tech savvy, we're old school. We're a 90s band, so everything for us is analog, and we're still getting into the tech sphere of things, but you can always get a hold of us and check us out. We're always posting stuff and keeping people up to date on things.
Yeah, I don't think they don't have street teams anymore, do they?
I wish.
No, yeah.
Those were fun.
Street teams those were awesome. I mean, a lot of cool people on street teams, and we actually had one for a quick while, but
yeah.
Those are cool.
Chad and I actually got to meet Pantera because of being on a street team once.
Yeah.
It was really neat, yeah.
Yeah, that's it was cool because they always gave kids perks, and kids were stoked to do it. And I had a lot of friends that did it for a long time. I had a friend of mine did it for Papa Roach for years, and he loved it. And he actually became really close with the band and stuff. So it was cool.
That's what you mentioned, Papa Roach. That's a show that you would come out of the show and you would have 7 Papa Roach flyers or stickers or something, or CD sampler. Like, I think that was part of the popularity of Last Resort. It was
those
everywhere.
little cassette singles.
Yeah. It's funny because they're from here. They're from Sacramento, the Sacramento area. Yeah, so we grew up with those guys, and I remember them putting out that record, and I was like, I hope it does well, because that was kind of towards towards the end of like the new metal era kind of.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I hope they didn't miss their window. And all of a sudden they're selling 7 million copies. Like, whoa, okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess
I think they did okay.
Yeah, they did all right.
30 years later.
Yeah, they're still going. I know, it's crazy. Good for those guys though. It's like, anybody from this area, I gotta give them much props.
And we've talked to several bands and several people that know them personally. They say they're absolute sweethearts as well.
Yep.
Yeah, they're cool. They've always, Kobe's the same guy he was when we were kids, like playing around here and stuff. They're just down to earth guy. A lot of Sacramento bands are, which is nice. None of our bands like Deftones and even bands like Cake and stuff like that. No one ever really got a rock star attitude. you see those guys around town all the time. They're the same guys they were back in the day. So there's something about the Sacramento mentality where just kind of everybody's just laid back and kick it. And, no one really gives a two craps about being a rock star. They just want to play music. It's always kind of been the culture here. So it's kind of nice. We don't have that LA attitude,
Well, we can tell we're loving this new album, 7. Everybody's going to go out and get it on Minus Head Records, wherever music is. Jeff, we appreciate your time today.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.